Mine attacks on oil. Tankers in the Persian Gulf, 2019. In the volatile waters of the Persian Gulf, where the world's most vital energy supply routes converge, a series of mysterious and brazen attacks on oil tankers in 2019 sent shockwaves through global markets and brought the region to the brink of conflict. Over a span of several months, multiple oil tankers were struck by sophisticated limpet mines, causing significant damage but miraculously avoiding any major loss of life. While no group claimed responsibility, the United States, its allies, and independent investigations pointed the finger squarely at Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. For the IRGC, these mine attacks were not random acts of aggression. They were a calculated demonstration of Iran's asymmetric capabilities, designed to destabilize the region, disrupt global oil supplies, and send an unmistakable message to Washington and its Gulf allies that Tehran could retaliate against U.S. sanctions with devastating consequences. The stage for these attacks was set in May 2018, when the Trump administration withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal and reimposed crippling sanctions on Iran's economy. As U.S. sanctions choked off Iran's ability to export oil, the regime faced mounting pressure from within and growing isolation from the international community. The IRGC, tasked with defending the Islamic Republic and advancing Iran's regional interests, responded with a strategy of maximum resistance, aimed at demonstrating that Iran could disrupt global oil supplies if its own economy was strangled. The first wave of attacks came in May 2019, when 4 commercial oil tankers were targeted off the coast of Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates, a critical hub for global oil shipping. The attacks, carried out with limpet mines placed just below the waterline, caused structural damage to the tankers, forcing them to return to port for repairs. While the explosions did not result in any casualties, they sent shockwaves through the oil markets, raising fears that the world's most vital energy corridor was under siege. The IRGC's signature was all over the attacks. Limpet mines, which are typically attached to the hulls of ships by divers or fast-moving boats, are a hallmark of the IRGC's asymmetric naval capabilities. The mines used in the Fujairah attacks bore striking similarities to Iranian-manufactured devices, and U.S. intelligence agencies quickly concluded that the attacks were likely carried out by IRGC operatives using speedboats and underwater teams operating out of Iranian naval bases along the Persian Gulf. But the IRGC's message was far from over. A month later, in June 2019, 2 more oil tankers, the Front Altair, a Norwegian vessel, and the Kokuka Courageous, a Japanese tanker, were attacked in the Gulf of Oman. Once again, limpet mines were used, causing explosions that forced the crews to abandon ship and leaving both vessels adrift. The attacks, which occurred as Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was visiting Tehran in an effort to mediate between the United States and Iran, were a stark reminder that Iran's hardliners, led by the IRGC, were not interested in diplomacy. The timing of the attacks was a calculated move to undermine any possibility of negotiations and reinforce Iran's strategy of using force to achieve its objectives. The IRGC's tactics were not merely about damaging oil tankers. They were about creating uncertainty and fear in global markets. By targeting oil shipments in the Strait of Hormuz, through which nearly 20% of the world's oil passes, the IRGC demonstrated that Iran had the capability to choke off global energy supplies and destabilize the global economy. The IRGC's goal was clear: to force the international community to confront the reality that Iran could escalate the crisis and inflict significant pain on the global economy if Washington's maximum pressure campaign continued unchecked. The attacks in the Gulf of Oman were meticulously planned and executed with precision. Surveillance footage released by the U.S. military showed IRGC operatives removing an unexploded limpet mine from the hull of the Kokuka Courageous after the initial explosion, a blatant attempt to cover up Iranian involvement. The IRGC's swift and coordinated response underscored its ability to operate with impunity in the region, using a blend of stealth, speed, and deception to execute complex operations. While Iran denied any involvement in the attacks, the evidence pointed overwhelmingly to the IRGC. U.S. officials released detailed intelligence assessments that identified Iranian naval assets operating near the site of the attacks, and forensic analysis of the mines recovered from the damaged vessels confirmed that they were of Iranian origin. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and other Gulf states echoed Washington's assessment, accusing Iran of attempting to destabilize the region and disrupt global energy markets. For the IRGC, the mine attacks were a strategic masterstroke. The attacks had achieved multiple objectives. They had demonstrated Iran's capacity to retaliate against U.S. sanctions, sown fear and uncertainty in global markets, and reminded Washington and its allies that Iran's reach extended far beyond its borders. The IRGC had shown that it could target commercial shipping at will, turning the Strait of Hormuz into a flashpoint that could bring the global economy to its knees. But the IRGC's mine attacks also carried significant risks. While the Trump administration stopped short of launching a military response, the attacks brought the United States and Iran dangerously close to the brink of war. Tensions escalated further after Iran shot down a U.S. surveillance drone over the Strait of Hormuz in June 2019, prompting President Donald Trump to order, and then cancel, a retaliatory strike against Iranian targets. The situation remained perilously close to spiraling out of control, with both sides teetering on the edge of open conflict. The IRGC's aggressive posture in the Persian Gulf also strained Iran's relations with its Gulf neighbors, particularly Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who viewed the attacks as a direct threat to their security and economic stability. The attacks deepened sectarian and geopolitical divisions in the region, further isolating Iran and solidifying the resolve of Gulf states to counter Tehran's influence. Despite these risks, the IRGC remained undeterred. The mine attacks were part of a broader strategy of asymmetric warfare that Iran had perfected over decades, using unconventional tactics, proxy forces, and deniability to advance its strategic objectives while avoiding direct confrontation. For the IRGC, the attacks were a demonstration of Iran's resilience in the face of mounting pressure, and a stark reminder that Tehran had the means to disrupt global order if its interests were threatened. As tensions simmered in the aftermath of the attacks, the IRGC had succeeded in altering the dynamics of the Persian Gulf. The mine attacks had transformed the region into a theater of uncertainty, where the threat of escalation loomed large, and the world's energy supply hung in the balance. Through its calculated and audacious actions, the IRGC had once again proven that in the unforgiving waters of the Persian Gulf, Iran's reach was long, its tactics were lethal, and its ability to shape the course of global events was unparalleled.